Dealing with the Ricardian theory of distribution. So the theory is based on marginal principle and the surplus principle, whereas the marginal principle explains the concept of rent and the surplus principle explains the division of the remaining share between the wages and profit. So there are three assumptions. The first assumption is that agriculture land is limited in quantity and leads to diminishing return. So the labor is fixed factor. So the use of additional labor leads to the diminishing marginal return. And the second assumption is that population growth are governed by Malthusian theory. The population grows whenever the wages rise above the subsistence level and decline when wages go below this level. And the last assumption is that Ricardo also assumes capital accumulation is the key to economic progress and it is stimulated by profit in a capitalist economic growth. So the Ricardo allocates the national output among the three major shares, that is rent, wages and profit. So the first one, rent. Rent is the return on land. According to the Ricardian theory, the measurement of rent considers the production cost and total product. So that is production cost of workers is less than the total product that measures the rent. Whereas the production cost is equal to marginal price of labor into number of labors and the total product is equal to APL into number of labors. APL means average price of labor. So in the words of Kaldor, the difference between MPL and APL gives the rent, that is marginal price of labor and average price of labor. So the second one is that wages. That is another share out of national output is wages. Okay. And which is the return to labor or it is the factor price of labor. There are two types of wages, natural price of labor and market price. The first one is natural price of labor. So it is related with the subsistence wage and it is the wage. So it is the wage is sufficient to maintain the working population, that is known as natural price. So it allows the minimum standard prescribed by the social, cultural and physical forces. And the second one is that market price. Market price is the wage level which actually prevails in the market at a particular time and which is determined by the market forces, that is demand and supply. And the next one is profit. And profit is the final share out of income. So the profit is treated as a residual surplus in the Ricardian scheme. So it is the amount left over after the wage payment and rent. That is profit is equal to national product, that is Y minus wage plus rent. Now look at this graph. The x-axis represents the number of workers employed in the agriculture sector and y-axis represents the agricultural output. And AP and MP shows the average and marginal product curve of labor. It is a downward sloping curve. And if ON labor is employed, the rent per unit of labor is determined by the difference between average and marginal product. That is AN minus MN, that is equal to AM. And the total amount of rent is determined by the excess of total product over the total cost, that is ONAR minus ONMP, that is equal to PMAR. Okay. And so this is the share of profit. This is the share of rent. And the share of wages in Ricardian analysis is determined by the minimum subsistence wage or the natural price of labor. That is OW is assumed as the natural price of labor. And OP as the wage plus profit per units of labor and OW as the wage rate. So profit per units of work determined according to the surplus principle, that is OP minus OW that's equal to PM. And ONMP minus ONSW, that's equal to WSMP. So this is the share of profit. Now look at this graph. It is the movement of the economic system towards a stationary state. The x-axis represent population and y-axis represent total product minus rent. So the curve OP shows total product minus rent and it is a function of population. Okay. At a higher level of population, the curve get flattened because of diminishing return. And the constant tangent alpha measures the constant real wage rate. Okay. When population is ON and the total product minus rent is RN, which include wages and profit. And the share of profit is RN minus WN, that is equal to RW. And WN is the wage bill. And at a higher level of population, the profit exists to the extent of R1 and W1. And it will promote capital accumulation and technological progress. And it increase the wage bill but reduce the share of profit. So eventually the system approaches the point at point S when population is ON1. So the forces of capital accumulation and technical progress cannot make any further improvement. So the Ricardian theory thus demonstrates that the share of rent and wages tends to increase while that of profit falls with the growth of a capitalist economy. Thank you.